My name is Mr. Jonas Pell. I am the Duke of Hartwell's secretary, and I have served in that capacity for 11 years. I am telling you this not because my position qualifies me as a particularly important witness, but because I was in the corridor outside the morning room on the 12th of November, 1882, and I heard everything that was said in that room, and I believe there is only one account that matters, and I am the person who was there for it. The morning room at Hartwell was, at that time, in use as a meeting space for the quarterly tenancy review, a 3-day proceeding involving the estate steward, the heads of the northern and southern holdings, and any relevant correspondence from tenants regarding terms, disputes, or modifications. The Duke attended each afternoon session. The mornings were handled by the senior steward and the junior estate managers. In November of 1882, one of the matters on the quarterly review involved the Aldwick holding, a mid-sized property on the east boundary, approximately 84 acres, farmed by the Aldwick family for 3 generations. The current holder of the tenancy was a man named George Aldwick, 58, who was unwell. In his absence, his daughter had been managing the correspondence for the past several months. Her name was Miss Cordelia Aldwick. She was 23 years old. She had presented herself at the estate office 2 weeks prior with a letter requesting a meeting at the quarterly review, a straightforward request handled by the junior secretary and approved by the steward. The Duke happened to be present for the morning session that day because the afternoon schedule had been rearranged. Miss Aldwick arrived at 10 o'clock with a folder of documents. She was shown into the morning room. I was outside in the corridor with a second folder of correspondence that the steward had asked me to bring at 10:30. I was therefore present, without particular intention, for the period from 10 to 11. I am going to tell you what happened. The first matter was the lease amendment clause, a standard renewal modification that the steward explained to her clearly and at some length. She listened with attention. She asked 3 precise questions. She indicated she understood, and she noted the answers in a small book she had brought. The second matter was the drainage easement, a modification to the eastern boundary that affected approximately 4 acres of the Aldwick holding. The steward explained the terms. The Duke was present and did not speak. Miss Aldwick looked at the proposed terms for a moment. Then she said, "The boundary line in this modification places the eastern drainage channel on Aldwick land, not on the estate's land. The easement grants the estate the right to use it, but the maintenance obligation falls on Aldwick. Under the current acreage, that is an unreasonable arrangement." The steward said that the terms had been drafted by the estate solicitor. She said, "I have the 1861 survey with me." She opened the folder. She placed the survey on the table. She said, "The original boundary is here. The proposed modification moves it here. The difference is approximately 2 acres. The maintenance obligation under the modification is not standard for an easement of this kind." The steward looked at the survey. She said, "I am not disputing the easement itself. I am asking for the maintenance obligation to reflect the boundary accurately. If the channel is on Aldwick land, the estate should share the maintenance. If it is on estate land, the boundary should be drawn correctly." There was a silence. The Duke said it was the first thing he had said since she arrived. He said, "Are you willing to sign the lease renewal without the drainage modification?" She said, "Yes." "I am willing to sign the lease renewal and the easement if the maintenance obligation is corrected." The Duke looked at the steward. The steward nodded. The Duke said, "We will have the corrected terms to you by the end of the week." She said, "Thank you." She was at the door when the Duke said her name. He said, "Miss Aldwick." She turned. He said, "Where did you have the survey prepared?" She said, "I copied it from the estate archive." She said it was held in the Hartwell records room and open to tenants under the 1847 terms of access. He said, "You copied a survey from the records room." She said, "It took 3 mornings. Then she left. The steward drafted the corrected terms by Friday. They were signed on Monday. The survey copy that Miss Aldwick had made was, I subsequently learned, accurate to within 1/4 of an inch. I am the Duke's secretary. I take notes. I keep records. I have a professional respect for precision. What I observed in that morning room was a woman of 23, presented with terms she understood were incorrect, who had done 3 mornings of archival work to document the correction, and who presented it without any drama or any particular insistence on being recognized for it. She said what was accurate. She waited for the correct answer. She accepted it and left. The Duke called on the Aldwick holding in January. He married her in June. He has, I believe, thought about those 3 mornings in the records room for some time.